Good morning friends. Team NGOenabler is here with a video on very important and most awaited form 10AB. I am Ashis Agarwal from Team NGOenabler and today I will handhold you in filling form 10AB on the income tax portal. Before I move on to the form, let me give you its background very briefly along with the timelines of filing under each situation. Form 10AB is required to be filled under 4 circumstances which has been laid down in various subclauses to clause AC of subsection 1 to section 12A. Under subclause 2, it is required to be filed when the organization has already renewed its registration as per the new provisions of the law under section 12AB and need to renew it after 5 years again. In such cases, Form 10AB has to be filed 6 months prior to the expiry of the registration. Under subclause 3, when any new organization has taken fresh registration and is thus provisionally registered, they need to fill Form 10AB either 6 months prior to the expiry of the provisional registration or within 6 months from the commencement of the activities, whichever is earlier. I repeat, either 6 months prior to the expiry of the provisional registration or within 6 months from the commencement of the activities, whichever is earlier. Under subclause 4, when the erstwhile section 12AA or 12A has become inoperative since the organization was also registered under section 1023C or 1046 but now wants to apply for re-registration under section 12AB, Form 10AB has to be filed at least 6 months prior to the commencement of the assessment year from which the registration is sought. And at last, under subclause 5, when the organization has undertaken any modifications in the objects of the trust or society which do not conform to the conditions of the registration already taken, Form 10AB has to be filed within 30 days of such modification. Along with section 12A, filling of Form 10AB is also required for re-renewal of section 80G registration once the validity of current renewal expires, and also in case of those organizations who have taken provisional registration, that is the new organizations, and they need to apply for final registration. So basically, for renewing your erstwhile registrations under section 12AA, 12A, 80G and 1023C, or for taking fresh registrations in case of new organization, one was required to file Form 10A, but after that Form 10AB shall come into picture and you are required to file Form 10AB for any further renewal of the final registration or for taking final registration in case of provisional registration. Now let's see how to go about filling Form 10AB. First, you need to log on to the income tax portal www.incometax.gov.in and by clicking on the login option, you will be prompted to provide the user ID, which is usually the PAN of the organization. As soon as you fill the PAN, you can see that the tab Continue becomes active and then you are asked to provide the password. Don't forget to confirm the secure access message to complete the login process. Once you log in, you will be prompted to the dashboard where you can move to the e-file tab and select the option Income Tax Forms and then File Income Tax Forms. Once you click on it, you will find different forms available under the 3 tabs: persons with business or professional income, persons without business or professional income, persons not dependent on any source of income. So you need to move to the last tab by clicking on it where you will find Form 10AB. Click on File Now. You will find that the PAN of the organization, online as the submission mode and original as the type of filing is already auto populated. You just need to select the assessment year from the drop down, where now you will find only assessment year 22-23. As soon as you click on the assessment year, the tab Continue becomes active for moving ahead. You will not find the form here, but it's a good initiative by the department where they have listed all the documents with which you need to be ready with before getting started to fill the form. The list can be opened by clicking on the option of View More. Also, the relevant links for general instruction related to the form and things you should know before filing can also be found here. Now click on Let's Get Started to start filling the form. Unlike Form 10A, where there were 6 sections, it's only 4 available in this form. Incorporation or constitution, other registration and key person details. These were in 3 different parts in Form 10A but has now been merged in one section in Form 10AB. Then comes the operational details. Next comes details of assets and liabilities, income and religious activities, and the last section is of the attachments and verification. You need to click on each section one by one and fill the relevant details, and after filling each section the data has to be saved. Let's check the form by clicking on the first section, Incorporation or Constitution, Other Registrations and Key Person Details. You can see that the PAN, name and the address is already auto-populated. Next comes the section code, where the section under which we are making an application has to be selected from the drop-down list. For renewal of 12AB registration, which will be almost after 5 years, that is assessment year 26-27, you need to select code number 1, that is subclause 2 of clause AC of subsection 1 of section 12A. For getting final registration under section 12AB in cases where fresh provisional registration was taken by new organizations and which is valid only for 3 years, you need to select 2, that is subclause 3 of clause AC of subsection 1 of section 12A. For filing, because of the modification in objects has been undertaken, you need to select 4, that is subclause 5 of clause AC of subsection 1 of section 12A. Similarly, for renewal of ATG registration, which will be almost after 5 years, you need to select code number 13, and for final registration under section ATG in cases of fresh provisional registration for new organizations and which was valid only for 3 years, you need to select code number 14. Thus, the code as applicable to you based on the section for which the application is being filed needs to be selected in this option. So for now I am selecting code number 2, where I am trying to get the final registrations for new organization who has already got provisional registration. The third point is related to the nature of activities, which has to be selected out of the 3 options by ticking on the option applicable to your organization. Either it is charitable or religious cum charitable. So for now, let's select charitable. Next comes the type of constitution, that is whether it is a society, a trust or a non-profit company, which is a section 8 company, or any other form of organization, and here also you need to tick the option as applicable. With the constitution details is attached other 4 sub points which also needs to be filled. Now you might be able to see only one sub point, but Once you click yes as an answer to subpoint number A, that is whether the organization is registered, the rest 3 missing subpoints will now auto appear. So for the type of constitution, let's select trust, and here I have put yes that the trust is registered, and then I will move on to give the date of registration, the registration number, and the authority granting the registration which is required to be filled. So suppose here I am giving 2nd June 2021. Suppose the registration number is 123456789 and the authority granting is Register of Assurances. Moving to the next point, objects of the applicant. Now this has to be selected very prudently and based on the nature of activities and projects carried out by the organization. The list of objects provided in the form is nothing but the activities as listed out in the definition of charitable activities defined under section 2 subsection 15 of the Income Tax Act. So the organization has to select whether it is involved in religious activities, relief of poor, education, medical relief, yoga, preservation of environment, preservation of monuments, advancement of any other objects of general public utility. So for now, let's select relief of poor, education, and let's go ahead. Then comes a very simple but important question from the perspective of charitable organization: whether the trust deed contains the clause that the trust is irrevocable. I repeat, whether the trust deed contains the clause that the trust is irrevocable. The reason I said it is important because this clause provides a kind of surety that the intention of the founder, which would have been welfare of the public at large, shall always be protected and cannot be revoked ever without fulfilling the clauses of the trust deed. Usually, a public charitable trust is not revoked but is transferred to other charitable organization having similar objects and registrations to continue fulfilling the charitable objectives of the trust for which it is established. So let's put yes and move ahead to point number 7. Now before filling point number 7, there is an instruction sheet attached wherein it has been provided that when and what details are required to be filled in case yes is selected. You can see here that complete details of all the statutory registrations taken by the organization, specifically that of FCRA and Darpan portal, is being asked. So once you click yes to point number 7, the tab add details will become active, and after clicking on it, you need to fill the name of the relevant law under which the organization is registered, where specifically FCRA, Darpan portal and few other sections of the Income Tax Act has already been listed. After selecting the relevant act, you need to provide the details of all the registration applicable, such as the registration number, date of registration, authority granting the registration, and the date from which the registration is effective. It has been clearly mentioned in the instruction sheet that the registration details already provided in point number 4 need not be repeated, which means you did not give again these registration details in point number 7. So for the time being, let's select FCRA. Let's put the registration number. Let's put the date of registration to be somewhere 6 January 16. You can see that the authority granting the registration has auto appeared, which is Ministry of Home Affairs in case of FCRA. Let's keep the date of, let's keep the date same, as January 16 and click on add. So for now I am just adding the FCRA details. You need to update all the registration details where the organization is registered under different acts. Also you need to provide an answer in yes or no for the two questions mentioned in point number 8A and 8B related to any rejection of any application in the past and regarding claim of exemption under section 1021 of the Act. So for the time being, let's keep both the points as no. Before moving on to the next section, the details of all the trustees or members or directors need to be provided who are there on the board as on the date of application. I repeat, as on the date of application. By clicking on the tab add details, the following details can be filled: name of the person, relation, that is where the designation held in the organization by such person is required to be selected from the drop down list. You can see here director, trustee, author, settler, founder and many more options are available. Then comes the ID code, which again has to be selected from the drop down list on the basis of the document number you wish to provide as an identity or address proof of such person. The document numbers which are listed are permanent account number, Aadhaar number, tax identification number, passport number, elector's photo identity number, driving license number and the ration card number. Unique identification number of the document whose code has been selected. So suppose if you select here the PAN, you need to give the PAN of the person in this place. Suppose I am filling my name. Let's put the relation as trustee. Then you have to give here the mobile number, the email address, and the complete address of the person. So you can see the post office details, area, locality, district and the state gets auto-filled once you give the PIN code. Now you need to click on add. Okay, so here it's written is PAN or Aadhaar available. You have to click on yes and then click on add and the details will be added. So this was all about filling up the first section of form 10AB, but don't forget to click on save before moving on to the next section. Also, if you have filled all the relevant fields of the first section, you will find after saving a green tick like this will appear on that particular section with the word completed. The second section contains the operational details of the organization. In the very first point under this section, the details of the nature of the institution being managed or controlled by the organization has been asked, and it's a mandatory field. Once you click on add details, you can find that you need to fill a whole lot of details such as the name of the institution being managed, nature of the activity which can be selected from the drop down, complete address and the details of the person in charge of that particular institution. This implies if suppose an educational organization is running more than one school, the details of each school has to be provided here separately. So although this point is not mandatory, which I said earlier, but if you want to fill the details, you can see here the name of the organization of the institution which you are managing or controlling has to be filled, and this is a mandatory field. In case the nature of your organization is not listed here, you may select any other institution. I repeat, here you can select any other institution. In case under the nature of activity, if suppose you are not running a school, college, university, hospital, yoga institute or religious places, then you can select any other institution. But remember, the nature should either be related to something charitable or at least incidental to the main objects, else it might be a challenge for the organization. Then comes the point related to business undertaking owned or activities being carried out by the organization. If it's so, then click on Add Details and provide the information being asked, such as whether the separate books of accounts have been maintained or not, complete address of such undertaking, the sector to which such business belongs need to be selected from the drop down. So from here you can select the sector in which you are undertaking the business. Once the sector is selected, suppose you select social and community work. Once the sector is selected, a list of subsectors shall auto appear from which you need to select the specific activity you are carrying out. However, if the organization does not own any undertaking but have any other income which is in the nature of trade, commerce or business, point number 12, I repeat, point number 12 needs to be filled instead of point number 11. I am repeating it again. If the organization does not own any undertaking but have any other income which is in the nature of trade, commerce or business, point number 12 needs to be filled instead of point number 11. Now here the first question is very important. Whether the business is incidental to the attainment of the objectives of the trust or institution. This should always be yes, because this is one of the precondition to be considered as charitable organization in case you are carrying out any business activities. If no is selected, there are very high possibility that your application might be rejected and the exemption might be revoked. Go on to give the same details as was discussed in point number 11, that is the address of the business, whether you are maintaining separate books of accounts, the sector in which you are working, the subsector and the nature of business activity, and click on Add. Then comes the details of all the bank accounts held by the organization, where IFSC and the account number is required to be filled. On providing the IFSC, the name of the organization will auto appear. So in case of point number 10, 11 and 12, we can see that they are not the mandatory fields, but point number 13 is mandatory. You can see a red mark, red star mark here. So it's a mandatory field. So for the time being, let's fill and let's put the account number as something this and click on Add. Next comes the details of land or building or both held by the applicant. Now this is a major information which is being asked. When I will click on Add Details, you will come to know why I said that. So before I move on to the details, let me share with you that maintenance of fixed asset register has always been the most ignored record. Initially, we thought only FCRA inspectors inquires about this at the time of FCRA renewal, but now even Income Tax Department is asking for such details. So friends, start thinking of it, and not just think but start implementing it. We will soon come up with a video on fixed assets register and its review. Anyways, coming back to the form. So in this point, once you click on add details, you will find that you have to fill not only the complete address of your land or building, but also the measurement in square meters, the stamp duty value at the time of acquisition, and the purchase consideration paid, which means the cost of purchase, and the mode as well as the date of acquisition. They have in fact also asked whether the asset is acquired or gifted in case of mode of acquisition. So you can see the kind of details are being asked by the Income Tax Department in case of land and building. Here we would like to point out few things. Since the word held by the applicant, I repeat, since the word held by the applicant is mentioned, does that mean that if the organization is using the leased land or rented premises, they need not give the details? Also, both land and building is covered, but in case of self-constructed building and improvements thereof in various years, how one will be able to provide such details? In our opinion, clarification is required to be issued by CBDT or Ministry of Finance in this regard. It's quite unclear, but organizations filling the form now for final registration should, in our opinion, fill only the land details in case of self-constructed buildings, and that too only when it has been directly acquired or gifted. Apart from this, we also feel that even if a single plot of land has been acquired on multiple dates or from different sellers, the details of each land deed needs to be filled separately. I repeat, we also feel that even if single plot of land has been acquired on multiple dates or from different sellers, the details of each land deed need to be filled separately, considering the details which are being asked in the form, such as the stamp duty value and the purchase consideration. So for the time being, let's not fill the details, and the second section ends with two questions related to advancement of any other object of general public utility and the details of any receipts from such activity. Remember, the details asked is related to the year immediately preceding the previous year in which the application is made. So if you are applying after March 2022, such details have to be filled for the year ending 21-22. You will find this point inactive. You can see here that the point is inactive unless in the first section advancement of any other object of general public utility is ticked. Let's see what details are being asked here by going back and ticking it right. So suppose I am just clicking on advancement of any other objects in case of first section, and I am again going to the second section. You can see here that the point has become active now. So let's click on yes, and you can see here add details has become active, and they are asking total receipts, aggregate receipts from the activities referred above, percentage will auto calculated, and then if you have any remarks, and then you can click on add. So for the time being, let's go again and let's untick it, and let's click on save. So you can see here, since there were no much details to be filled in the operational details, and we have saved it, it's showing completed. Let's move on to the third section. This section is quite similar to what was there in form 10A, which starts with a question on whether The return for last assessment year has been filed and complete details of the assets and liabilities as well as the income received in last 3 previous years immediately preceding the year in which the application is made. You can see exactly similar details have been asked here what was there in form 10A. All the details of the liabilities and then the assets, and then when you click on the income you can see you can select the financial year for the last 3 years and the grants received and other income details. However, these fields are mandatory. You can see here all the fields are mandatory. So let's fill it. For the time being I am just putting 10,000 rupees as assets and liabilities, and under the income details, since we are doing it for a new organization I am assuming that it has been registered in 2021, and let's put the grant as 10,000 rupees, 0, other income is 0, and let's click on add. Finally, coming to point number 27A and B, which shall become active only in case you select religious or charitable cum religious as the nature of activity in the first section at the time of renewing the ATG registration. So for the time being I am clicking on save, and you can see here that it is also completed with a green tick. Then comes the attachments and verification section, where the authorized person who is authorized to verify the income tax return of the organization shall provide his or her father name. You can see here, you can click, his name is appearing here, and here you can select son or daughter, and then you can put the father's name. And then you can click for the undertaking. So let's put XYZ. But before that you need to enclose all the documents which are required to be uploaded with the form within the size limit as mentioned at the start of this section. So you can see here the size for each attachment should not exceed 5 MB, and for all the attachments together it should not exceed 50 MB. So what all documents you need to upload? Self-certified copy of either the trust deed or the memorandum of association, self-certified copy of the registration certificate, self-certified copy of the existing 12AB and ATG certificate or the provisional registration certificate, self-certified copy of the FCRA or any other registration certificate, self-certified copy of the annual accounts for immediately 3 preceding years. In our view, it should contain the balance sheet, income expenditure and receipt and payments account with all relevant schedules. A brief note on the activities carried out by the organization. In our view, it should also be self-certified and on the letterhead of the organization. So you will see here that there is no option of attaching a brief note of the activities. So in our view, it should be enclosed in any other option of attachment, and in the box if it is there you can specify activity report. You can see you can specify here activity report, and then you can attach the activity report. So suppose I am just attaching any document whatever is available because it's a mandatory field. So suppose I am just attaching here, I am just attaching a random document so that I can move ahead. Wherever it's a mandatory field, I am attaching the same document. Yeah. And then click on save. Once all the sections are completely filled and green tick can be seen on all of them, the preview option will get activated and one can check the form by generating the preview. You will find the entire form will be displayed on the screen as filled up by you. So after checking the form, you can click on proceed to e-verify. There you can either verify it through a one-time password which will be sent to the mobile number registered on the portal and only if it is linked with the Aadhaar of the person signing the undertaking, or you can verify the form through the digital signature of such authorized person. Only after the e-verification is done, the form shall be considered to be submitted. So this was all about filling up of form 10AB on the income tax portal. I hope I have been able to develop clarity in the final registration and re-registration process that shall start in assessment year 26-27. For further details, keep tuned to our channel. Don't forget to subscribe it and put your notifications on. And for any queries, feel free to comment below or contact us through mail. Thank you.